Welcome to another Canon Review. I'm your host, Terry, and today we're reviewing / talking about some of the theories from the recent movie Joker. First and foremost, it's been a while. I tried to keep up over the summer, had to do a summer internship type thing, and I think I got most of the movies I wanted to see. But since coming back to school, second year of grad school has been crazy. And yeah, man, honestly, this year, it hasn't been a lot of movies that I wanted to see. And so I've seen some movies, but yeah, I just been real busy, haven't got a chance to review much. But I wanted to talk about this. I wanted to review it the first night I saw it, but I wanted to sit on it and kind of let it all stir. And it's a good movie, man. And I'm not going to go too much into a review because it's been out for a little bit. But since the movie came out, there have been so many theories and, different interpretations of the way things happen. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about some of those things and some of the things that happened in the movie and what I thought. But to start off real quick with my thoughts on the movie, as I mentioned before, I really, really enjoyed it. I want to see it again, but I would probably give it like a 93, 94, somewhere in there. Definitely around the A range, A minus range. And the performance was absolutely crazy by Joaquin Phoenix. I think it lived up to the hype. It was crazy because he was in every scene of the movie, it felt like. And I just don't remember a movie of this type where you got that much action. And so there's all that. But I think it was just handled really well with the Gotham / Batman mythos being inserted into this story, but not overpowering this story. I thought the way it was written and the way it was shot really let you get into these different ideas of what could be going on. And we'll talk about those in a little bit. But I just thought it was well crafted, well directed, well acted. Yeah, there's some things that didn't work for me towards the end. And it's tied to like the idea of what Joker is, which I don't hold too much against the movie. And I always try to say, take what the movie gives you. But in this case, you chose to make this Joker movie. You didn't choose to make this a random movie. And so there are certain things that you're going to compare to it. And so just projecting him becoming the Joker, sometimes I felt like I don't know if I could see him ever becoming the Joker that we know. So, but other than that, man, I just really enjoyed the movie. And I do think, if anything, Joaquin should be competing for Best Actor. So anyway, let's get into some of the theories. There's so many, but let's start off with the whole Zazie Beetz thing. So for me, as most people know, that this ended up not being real. But for me, I would say it got me. And I wouldn't say I was completely shocked, but it got me. Because when it happens, when they start talking, I'm just like, this is so unbelievable. This doesn't make sense. And so the first time she comes to the door and it's like, hey, were you following me today? I'm like, oh no, she's about to become an enemy or something. But then she's kind of flirty. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make much sense, but maybe, he's imagining this. And especially when he kicked down the door and kissed her, like, I'm like, okay. But then the more you saw her, like at the hospital, you saw him walking around, you saw him at the diner. I was like, okay, well, I thought it was like a few scenes and then we're going to reveal that it wasn't real. But she kept coming around. I'm like, well, maybe this is real. So that doesn't make sense. I don't like that part, but it is what it is. And the other thing that really made me feel like this doesn't make sense is that he was getting so upset and doing all this stuff, but he had not even one of the finest women. She's fine to me. She might not be fine to everybody else, but he had somebody that loved him just for him. And, she's going to the club laughing at his jokes. She likes him for Arthur Fleck. And if that was true, why would then he be so, down this path because of these other things? It's like he just completely disregarded the fact that he has affection from somebody. And so that's, to me, I was like, this doesn't make sense. And so when they end up revealing it, and the way they revealed it, I was like, okay. I wasn't shocked, but I was like, okay, you just took longer to do it than I thought. And so the way she's just like, excuse me, don't you live down the hall? What are you doing in my apartment? I'm like, oh. So I love that part. But that is what kind of sprouts all these theories. Because since that happened, people are like, well, what else was fake? What else wasn't real? And for me, overall, I think that the stuff that they showed you wasn't real is what wasn't real. Like, they flash back to show you that she wasn't there. And then with the Maury show, they flash back to him sitting in the bed watching TV with his mom to show you that that wasn't real. And so, like, everything else I think was real. But there are questions with other things. And so, number one, we got the Thomas Wayne thing. And I really love the way they did this because they set it up so perfectly that the mom was frantic. She was sure that Thomas Wayne was his father. And she obsessed over these letters, but they didn't really portray her as a mental unhealthy person. You just thought she was like, you believed what she said, as opposed to Arthur, who was very portrayed as mentally unstable. You didn't really trust his judgment. And so you trusted his mom until he runs into Thomas Wayne and whatever. They tell her, like, you know, she was mentally unstable, and he finds the records, all that. So, like, that whole setup was nice because it was like, for a moment, you were like, oh, is he related to Bruce Wayne? And then you find out that's not true. But then they didn't stop there. They didn't say, okay, that part's done. They threw in that little part with the picture. And on the back, it said, I love to see your smile or something. It was signed TW. Now, the way she was talking about it and the way Thomas Wayne was reacting to it, I believe what actually happened was that they did, I don't know if they had an affair, but I think they were flirting around and maybe getting to that point. But he saw how unstable she was and kind of called it off. And it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, because the way it was very much like an Aladdin type thing. The way Thomas Wayne looked at Arthur was like, dude, I can't be your dad. Like, you're street trash. I'm royalty, basically. And so I think he feels the same way about his mom. Like, I can't be, seen or rumored to be sleeping around with the help. And so I feel like while he's not the father, something happened between them that he obviously wants to make sure doesn't ever come up. And so I think, but it was a nice touch to put that picture in because some people are like, well, could he be telling the truth? And I think either his mom or someone mentioned like he paid somebody to forge those records. But then you had a flashback of his mom. But then again, that's from Arthur's point of view because he's standing in there watching her. So we don't really know. It could go one way or the other, but for me, I think it's kind of simple and plain. She adopted him. Somebody abused him. The man has the laughing disorder that comes from head trauma and all that. And so I definitely think that's what happened, but they at least give you a little part where you could kind of take it one way or the other. So there's a lot of people saying that Thomas Wayne actually was his father and all that. But really, at the end of the day, it does not matter because at that point, like Arthur said, he's got nothing to lose because one way or the other, it's a messed up choice. Like, there's no good choice in this. Either his mom was mentally unstable and abused him and all that, or his father disowned him and just didn't care about them. So one way or the other, there's no good choice. So then another thing that people are saying is that he committed suicide when he got in the fridge. And the reason I love all these theories, by the way, I don't personally believe it. As I mentioned, I think what they showed was real. But the one thing that gives it a lot of credence to it is that it just didn't fit. It was like, well, what? Like that, it came out of nowhere. It was no talk about him climbing in the fridges or small spaces to be alone or anything. It just kind of happens. And so to me, I'm like, the only reason that I would give it some, validity is because then you could point as a director and say, well, at this point, we imagine him killing himself, and then the rest of the movie is just kind of fantasy or whatever. So that's the only reason I would think that scene stands in there, because it had literally no effect on the rest of the movie. And so, in my opinion, the only effect would be if you went back and said, yeah, he killed himself. So that's an interesting thought. I mean, I think for as unstable as he was, as violent as he was, as much as he was descending into madness, before the end of the movie, he just was still awkward. He was never really Joker. Even when he's getting chased by the cops heading to the Maury show. Or is it Murray Franklin? Yeah, I could call him Murray show. But even to that point, he's just still awkward. He's not really the Joker yet. And so you could make a case that after that point, with the fridge, he started gaining more confidence. He controlled his laughter. He got off his meds and all that good stuff. And like, he really came into his own. And that might be because it was a fantasy, but who knows? So another one that people are talking about as far as these theories was like, did this whole thing even happen? Well, I'll first start with the end scene where he gets hit with the ambulance and the police car, and the followers take him out, and then he ends up getting up, dancing on the car. So there's a whole bunch. It's just like, some people are like, well, okay, that part never happened. He just went to Arkham and he like fantasized about that. There's some people saying that happened, but he died in that car crash, and him getting up and dancing was just a fantasy, which wouldn't make sense to me, because it's like, well, why then is there another scene of him in Arkham if he died there? But whatever. And so, and then there's the bigger version that all of this was fake, and that he was in Arkham the whole time, and that he just kind of not fantasized, but kind of lied to the lady he was talking to, and like kind of made the whole thing up, which again, I don't really agree with at all, but that's how some people are talking about it. It's just like, okay, well, this was all kind of in his head. And again, it all stems from the Zazie Beetz thing. And so the one I can buy is him, like, let's say he's Arthur Fleck, or let's say he got rid of that name. And so we don't, because he's adopted, we don't really know his name. And he's the Joker. People know him as, this killer. And so he's talking to a therapist at Arkham. It's early Arkham. There's no Batman. And he's just lying to her. He's just telling her a whole story that isn't completely true. And like Joker says, his past is multiple choice. And so he tells her this whole thing, says, I just thought of a joke, you wouldn't get it, then kills her. And so, yeah, that's the most plausible to me. Again, not what I think happened, but that'd be the most plausible. I would take that. I don't think he got hit. I don't think he died at any point and then just started fantasizing about the rest of the movie. That doesn't really make sense to me. I don't think that's what they were going for. But, he is an unreliable narrator, so people are wondering, like, what could be real. But the thing to me is, if you take the movie at face value, up until that point, before he even got to the show or did anything, there were riots, with the clown mask, and there was an uprising with the clown mask. And so we already saw when he went to the museum, there was a riot, or like there was people there. And then we saw when he got on the train, that riot actually was happening. People were dressed up. And so one way or the other, he inspired these people. So then, do I think it's crazy to think that once he did that on TV, some of those zealous followers were looking to, liberate him? No, I don't think that's crazy. I mean, and he was fighting for, attention, but it was attention for himself. It wasn't attention to the issues of mental health. It wasn't attention to the issues of being poor. It was attention to how he was being treated. And so people kind of took that as a rallying cry. And I think they possibly, most definitely could have tried to liberate him. So to me, I don't think it's outside of the possibility that that part actually happened. So that's me. But again, there's so much in this movie. There's a lot of zigs and zags. People are like, oh, did this happen? Did this actually happen? I kind of said my statement, but I am liking a lot of these different theories that people are talking about and how it all could have played out. So anyway, go to the comment section. Let me know what you think about some of your favorite Joker theories. What do you think happened in the movie with certain parts? How'd you like the movie? Go to the comment section, get that conversation started. Share it around, thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, if you heard it here, it's official canon.